Ryan had never been in a place like the Xyrillian embassy before. The towering walls shimmered in colors that human eyes could barely understand, and the floor seemed to hum under every step he took. He had no business being there. Officially, humans weren't allowed this close to the Queen, and he certainly had no clearance. But curiosity, combined with a reckless sense of adventure, had led him here. He was not brave. He was clumsy, and somehow that clumsiness had brought him into a world far beyond his imagination. The corridor he walked down was vast, lined with statues that moved slightly as if alive, their eyes following him. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest. Every instinct screamed for him to leave, but he couldn't turn back now. One wrong step, one misplaced foot, and the day would be over for him. Not in the usual sense, but in a way that might make galactic history. He chuckled nervously at the thought. "Great, Ryan," he muttered to himself. "You've outdone yourself this time." As he turned a corner, he didn't notice the ceremonial cord lying across the path. It was thin, almost invisible, blending perfectly with the shining floor. His foot caught it, and suddenly the world tilted. He stumbled forward uncontrollably, arms flailing, eyes wide in panic. Then he crashed. Ryan fell straight into the Queen's ceremonial chamber. The doors behind him shut with a soft hum, sealing him inside. He froze. The room was more magnificent than anything he had ever seen. Towering crystals emitted a soft, calming glow. Alien flowers, delicate and luminous, floated in midair. And in the center, seated on a throne that seemed carved from the night sky itself, was the Queen. She was breathtaking, taller than any human, with skin that shimmered like liquid sapphire, hair that floated like smoke, and eyes that seemed to see into the very core of his being. Ryan's mouth went dry. He wanted to apologize, to explain that he had not planned to trespass, not planned to disturb her, not planned to, well, anything. But words failed him. In a moment of pure panic, his instincts took over. He scrambled to stand, flailing for some sort of dignified posture, and without thinking, he held out his hand and blurted, "Will you marry me?" The words hung in the air, heavy and ridiculous. Ryan immediately realized his mistake. Oh no, oh no, oh no. His heart raced faster than it ever had before, a mix of fear, embarrassment, and sheer terror. He had just accidentally proposed to the most powerful being in the galaxy. He wanted the ground to swallow him whole. The Queen's eyes widened. Then slowly a smile spread across her face. Not a polite ceremonial smile, an excited, warm, genuine smile. Ryan froze, his brain trying to process what was happening. Did she like him? Did she understand that it was an accident? "You propose?" she asked, her voice deep, melodic, and vibrating softly in his chest. "Yes. No. Wait, I didn't mean to, I just..." Ryan stammered, words spilling out like a broken waterfall. He was panicking, but he couldn't stop. "It's not... I didn't even know you." The Queen laughed. Not a mocking laugh, not a dangerous laugh, but a clear, musical laugh that made Ryan's chest ache. She leaned forward slightly, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "You humans are strange," she said, tilting her head. "But I accept." Ryan froze completely. His brain refused to catch up. You accept?" "But I didn't, this wasn't..." She waved a graceful hand. Accident or not, the words were spoken, and I have decided to honor them. The room went silent except for the soft hum of the crystals. Ryan's knees went weak. He had not meant this. He had not planned this. Yet somehow he had just become engaged to the Queen of an alien world. Panic, awe, and disbelief swirled inside him. He wanted to apologize again, to explain, to run. But she smiled at him in a way that made it impossible to do anything but freeze. In that moment, Ryan realized that his life had just changed forever. And not in the small human-scale ways he was used to. No, this was bigger. This was galactic. This was history. And he had no idea what he had just signed up for. Ryan couldn't move. His legs felt like jelly. His hands trembled, and his mind raced faster than the speed of light. He had accidentally proposed to the Queen of an alien species, and somehow, against all logic, She had accepted. He wanted to scream, to explain, to run. But the Queen was watching him, her eyes soft and curious, and something in her gaze made him freeze. "Why did you say that?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. Her voice was gentle, almost playful, yet it carried an authority that made the walls themselves seem to lean closer, listening. I didn't mean it," Ryan blurted, waving his hands. "I was scared, I tripped, I panicked, He stopped, realizing he was babbling nonsense. "I didn't even know what I was saying." The Queen laughed again, the sound filling the chamber with a warmth that made Ryan's chest tighten. "It doesn't matter," she said. "You said the words, and words have power." Ryan blinked. Power? Words? He felt smaller than he had ever felt in his life. He was just a human, fragile and uncertain, standing before a being who could end his life with a thought. And yet here she was, smiling. "You accept?" he asked again, voice trembling. He needed confirmation. Surely this was a mistake. "You don't even know me." The Queen leaned forward, her sapphire eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Do I need to know everything?" she asked softly. "Sometimes a choice is more than knowledge. Sometimes it is instinct." Ryan swallowed hard. He could feel his heartbeat in his throat. This wasn't just fear anymore, it was awe. He had never seen someone so powerful, so beautiful, and yet so human in her way of understanding him. It was terrifying, and it was magnetic all at once. I'm not ready for this," he said quietly, almost to himself. "I don't even understand what's happening." She rose from her throne gracefully, moving closer. Her presence filled the room like sunlight spilling across the floor. "Readiness is irrelevant," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Life often chooses for us before we choose for ourselves. What matters is what you do next." Ryan looked down at his hands, feeling useless and small. What am I supposed to do? He was not a hero. He was not special. He was just a human, clumsy and loud and awkward. Yet somehow the Queen had decided to trust him with her life, her people, and something far bigger than him. "Why me?" he whispered. His voice barely reached the space between them, but she heard it, and her smile softened into something almost tender. "Because," she said, "I see something in you. Something simple, something real. Humans are fragile, yes, but you possess courage in the quietest moments, and that is rare." Ryan felt tears prick his eyes. No one had ever looked at him like that before. Not his friends, not his family, not even people he admired. And yet here was the Queen of the Xyrillians seeing him, really seeing him. I don't know if I can do this," he admitted, voice cracking. "I'm not worthy. I'm not ready for your world. For your people." She reached out and touched his shoulder. A gesture so delicate it almost seemed impossible. "Worthiness is not a requirement for change," she said. "You will grow. You will stumble, and together we will face the rest." Ryan felt something shift inside him. Fear was still there, yes, but beneath it something else emerged. Wonder, hope, a strange, thrilling sense of destiny. He had walked into the embassy thinking he was just another human, another visitor. And now, he was part of something larger, something beyond comprehension. The Queen stepped back, letting him breathe. "Take a moment," she said. "You are not alone in this. And soon you will see. What feels like accident may be the beginning of everything." Ryan nodded, swallowing hard. He could feel the weight of the universe pressing on his shoulders, but for the first time, he also felt possibility. Maybe he could do this. Maybe humans could do this. Maybe somehow he had been chosen not just to survive in her world, but to change it. The days after the accidental proposal were difficult, to say the least. Ryan had imagined diplomatic meetings would be formal, serious, and boring. Instead, they were terrifying, confusing, and filled with constant reminders that he was completely out of his depth. Every corner of the Xyrillian embassy seemed alive, buzzing with light, color, and subtle energy. The air smelled faintly of alien flowers, and every sound the soft hum of machinery, the flutter of wings he hadn't even noticed, made him jump. He had expected awkward glances from the staff, but nothing prepared him for the Queen herself. She moved with an elegance that made every human gesture of his seem clumsy and loud. She would speak to him in soft tones, asking questions about his life, his planet, his dreams, and Ryan would stumble over his words, nervous and embarrassed, while trying not to make the situation worse. "Do humans really eat so often?" she asked one morning, watching him fumble with a tray of food that hovered in midair. Yes, we do," Ryan stammered, nearly dropping it. "I mean, not always, but, well, yes." He smiled awkwardly, hoping she would not notice how ridiculous he felt. The Queen laughed, and her laughter made Ryan's stomach twist with a mix of nerves and relief. It was impossible not to feel something for her, something that went beyond fear, beyond awe. She was beautiful, radiant and wise, but also curious and playful. Ryan realized that humans had never really met someone like this. Someone who could hold immense power and still find joy in the smallest things. But it wasn't just her presence that made him nervous. It was the expectation. The proposal hung over every interaction, a silent reminder that he was now somehow tied to her fate. Ryan kept thinking, what am I doing here? I'm just a human. I don't belong. I don't even know the rules, the staff whispered constantly. Some looked at him with pity, some with suspicion, and a few with barely hidden amusement. He could hear snippets of conversation. Can he really lead her? He's too weak. Is this human serious? Each word made him shrink inside, but the Queen never seemed to notice, or maybe she did. And that was part of her way of showing trust. One evening, as Ryan walked through the floating gardens, he found her waiting, seated on a bench that hovered just above the ground. She smiled when she saw him. "You look tired," she said softly. "I am," he admitted, slumping down beside her. "This is overwhelming. I can't even describe it." She nodded, her eyes gentle. "I know. Humans are fragile, yet you carry more than you realize. Do not underestimate yourself." Ryan wanted to argue, to tell her that he was failing, that he had no idea how to handle all this responsibility, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he looked at her and felt something new, a strange comfort in the midst of chaos. "Why are you being so patient with me?" he asked quietly. "I don't deserve this. I don't even deserve your acceptance." "You said the words," she replied. "And whether you meant them or not, you stepped into something bigger than yourself. That takes courage, even if you do not see it yet." Ryan's chest tightened. No one had ever said anything like that to him. Not teachers, not family, not friends. And yet here she was, the queen of an alien species, believing in him, trusting him, giving him space to grow. It was terrifying, but it was also inspiring. The days passed slowly. He stumbled over alien customs, made mistakes he didn't know how to fix, and yet somehow the Queen never lost patience. She corrected him gently, guided him quietly, and laughed when he flailed hopelessly, trying to appear competent. Ryan began to understand something important. Maybe this accidental proposal wasn't a mistake at all. Maybe it was an opportunity, a chance to prove that even a simple human could matter in a world far larger and more complicated than he had ever imagined. And as he walked beside her in the floating gardens, listening to her stories about the stars, about her people, about herself, Ryan felt a small spark of hope. He didn't know the future. He didn't know if he could survive this new life. But for the first time, he felt like he belonged somewhere, even if only by accident. And that thought was terrifying, thrilling, and beautiful all at once. Not everyone in the Xyrillian court was happy about the proposal. Ryan quickly realized that being accepted by the Queen didn't mean being accepted by her people. Whispers followed him through the corridors, sharp eyes watching his every move. Every stumble, every confused gesture was noted and quietly criticized.
He had always felt small among humans, but here, in a world full of giants and brilliance, he felt like nothing. The council chamber was enormous, circular, with walls that shimmered like liquid light.
Today Ryan was summoned, not as a guest but as a subject of discussion. His stomach twisted with nerves. He had no idea how to defend himself against beings who had ruled their world for centuries, whose knowledge and power dwarfed his in every way. "You are a child," said one council member, his voice like stone. "You know nothing of our customs, our laws, our responsibilities. Why does the Queen give her trust to someone so fragile?" Ryan's throat went dry. He could feel all the eyes on him. Some curious, some judgmental, some openly hostile. He wanted to shrink into the floor, to vanish. He swallowed and took a deep breath. "I may be human," he said quietly, "but I know one thing. I care for the Queen, I will protect her, and I will try to understand your world even if it is hard for me." A ripple of laughter spread through the council. "Care!" one of them scoffed. "Care will not save you from the responsibilities you do not understand. You are unfit, human. The Queen will regret this choice." Ryan felt a hot wave of fear, but beneath it something else stirred. Something he had not felt before. Courage. He straightened his back, looked each council member in the eye, and spoke louder this time. "I may be weak. I may be inexperienced. But I am not afraid to stand beside her. I may stumble, I may fail, but I will not let anyone hurt her or her people or this bond we have." The chamber went silent. Even the Queen, who had been watching quietly from her throne, seemed impressed. Ryan realized that in that moment, he was standing up not just for himself but for humanity. He was showing that courage was not about strength or knowledge. It was about heart, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. "You speak boldly," said a council elder, leaning forward. "But words mean nothing without proof. How can we know that you will not falter when faced with true danger?" Ryan's heart pounded. He had no proof, no achievements, no weapons. All he had was determination. "I cannot show you proof yet," he said, his voice steady despite the fear. "But if danger comes, I will stand. I will fight. I will do everything in my power to keep her safe. I may be human, small and fragile, but my heart is mine, and it is strong." For the first time, some of the council members stopped whispering. The audacity of a human, so ordinary and untrained, claiming courage shocked them. They had underestimated humanity, thinking them weak, unpredictable, unworthy. And now, in this chamber of power and tradition, Ryan had proven that spirit mattered more than size. That courage could come from the most unexpected place. The Queen finally spoke, her voice calm but commanding. "Enough," she said, rising from her throne. Her sapphire eyes swept across the chamber, landing on Ryan. "This human has accepted a responsibility he did not ask for, and yet he faces it with honesty and courage. He is not perfect, he is not wise, but he is brave, and that is more than many in this room can claim." A hush fell over the council. Some bowed their heads in respect. Others clenched their fists in silent protest. Ryan exhaled, feeling a weight lift from his chest. He had survived his first challenge, and more importantly, he had proven something to himself. He belonged here, not because he was perfect, but because he refused to give up. Later, when the chamber emptied and Ryan walked beside the Queen in the glowing corridors, she reached out and touched his arm gently. "You have courage," she said softly. "Do not doubt it, even when the world seems to doubt you. Humanity has surprises, Ryan, and so do you." Ryan looked up at her, heart swelling. Fear still lingered, but now it was mixed with determination. He had stepped into a world he did not understand, faced beings far beyond his knowledge, and yet he had survived. And more than that, he had shown that humans, even small, fragile humans, could make a difference in a galaxy full of giants. Ryan had faced council doubts, whispered judgments, and his own fears, but nothing could have prepared him for the invasion. The first alarm sounded like a low, rumbling roar that shook the floors of the Xerillian palace. Lights flashed red, casting long, harsh shadows across the glowing walls. Ryan's heart raced, and for the first time he felt true terror. The Queen was calm, always calm. She stood tall, her sapphire skin glowing with quiet authority as she commanded the palace defenses. Ryan watched, awestruck. This was not a woman he had accidentally proposed to. This was a leader, a warrior, a being who carried the safety of an entire species on her shoulders. "Ryan," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Stay with me. Do not panic. I don't know what to do," he admitted, panic spilling over. He felt useless, a human in a war he could not understand, with weapons he had never held, in a place full of creatures he could not predict. "You will do what you must," she said softly, taking his hand. The simple touch gave him strength he didn't know he had. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite it. The enemy struck quickly. Rogue ships, sleek and deadly, tore through the palace shields. Explosions rattled the chambers, and Ryan's ears rang with alarms and the shouts of the Xyrillian guards. He clutched the Queen's hand tightly, his mind racing. He was just a human, just one ordinary human, but he refused to let fear make him run. "Follow me," the Queen commanded, moving with grace that made Ryan's head spin. They ran through corridors, dodging debris and falling lights, until they reached a floating garden, where the enemy's first strike was already reaching. Ryan wanted to hide. He wanted to give up, but the Queen didn't pause. She faced the enemy calmly, her eyes glowing brighter than the crystals around them. She turned to him. "You are with me," she said. "Now act. Protect yourself." "Protect us," Ryan nodded, swallowing his fear. He grabbed a nearby control panel, fumbling with alien technology. His fingers shook, but he listened to her guidance, pressing buttons and levers he didn't understand. Slowly, shields strengthened, doors sealed, and the chaos slowed. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. A heavy blast shook the garden, and Ryan was thrown to the ground. Pain shot through his shoulder, but before he could cry out, the Queen was there, pulling him to his feet. "You are stronger than you think," she said, helping him steady himself. Ryan realized something then. Fear didn't make him weak. Hesitation didn't make him useless. He had survived, acted, and helped. The Queen had trusted him, and in return he had acted, not perfectly but courageously. The battle raged for hours, but with the Queen leading and Ryan refusing to falter, the palace held. The enemy retreated, their invasion unsuccessful. The council members who had doubted Ryan looked at him, with a mixture of disbelief and newfound respect. Later, in the quiet aftermath, Ryan sat beside the Queen in the same floating garden. The air smelled faintly of burned metal and alien flowers. His hands were sore, his body exhausted, but his heart was alive in a way it had never been. "You were remarkable," the Queen said softly. "Today you showed more courage than many who have lived centuries. You faced danger not with power, but with your heart. That is humanity's strength." Ryan looked at her, feeling tears prick his eyes. He had stumbled, tripped, and accidentally proposed to an alien queen, and yet here he was, alive, standing beside her, having proven that even a human could matter in a galaxy full of giants. For the first time, he realized something incredible. Love and courage were connected. Protecting someone, caring for someone. It could give ordinary beings extraordinary strength. And as he held her hand in the glowing garden, watching the stars reflected in her eyes, Ryan knew one truth with certainty. He would follow her anywhere, fight anything, and stand by her no matter the cost. Because now he was no longer just a human. He was part of something bigger. Something worth every fear he had ever felt. The palace was quiet now. The alarms had stopped, the chaos faded, and the scent of alien smoke lingered faintly in the corridors. Ryan walked beside the Queen, his steps heavy with exhaustion but lighter with relief. He had survived the invasion, had acted when it mattered, and had seen the strength of courage in himself he never knew existed. But he also knew that surviving was only part of the battle. He still had to earn the respect of those who doubted him. The council chamber was filled once again. This time the atmosphere was different. The elders and advisors who had whispered and judged before now looked at Ryan with cautious attention. Some still wore expressions of skepticism, but there was something new in their eyes, curiosity, perhaps even admiration. The queen rose, her presence commanding the room effortlessly. Her sapphire skin glowed softly in the chamber light, and her voice carried with calm authority. "These humans," she began, her gaze sweeping across the council, "may appear fragile. Their lives may seem brief compared to ours, their knowledge limited. Yet in the face of danger, one human stood without hesitation. One human acted when fear threatened to overwhelm him." She turned to Ryan, her eyes locking with his. He did not falter. He did not run. He protected what matters even when the odds were impossible. And that courage, human courage, is rare. It deserves recognition. The council fell silent. Ryan could feel their eyes on him, weighing every word, every breath, every heartbeat. Some whispered quietly, but the weight of her words was undeniable. She had not only defended him, she had declared his worth, his bravery, and his place beside her. "You have shown us something remarkable," she continued, addressing the council. "Strength is not only in power but in heart. Even a human, even one inexperienced, can change the course of events when courage guides them." Ryan's chest tightened. He had expected scorn, ridicule, perhaps even punishment. Instead, he felt something entirely new: acceptance. Slowly, one council member rose and bowed slightly. "Perhaps we misjudged the human," he said carefully. Others followed, some nodding, some still cautious. But the tone of the room had shifted. The queen's gaze returned to Ryan. "See?" she said softly, almost in private, though the chamber could hear. "Even those who doubted you, they now see what I saw. Humanity is underestimated, and yet it is capable of greatness." Ryan swallowed hard. Tears pricked his eyes, not from fear, not from relief, but from a deep, overwhelming sense of belonging. For the first time in his life, he felt recognized not for what he had done perfectly, but for what he had dared to do anyway. He had stood, he had acted, he had fought, not because he was strong, but because he cared. "You've grown," the queen said, her voice low now, private between them. "You were uncertain, overwhelmed, afraid. And yet here you are, stronger, braver, alive. You have proven that humans, small as they may seem, can carry the weight of galaxies when it matters." Ryan nodded, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for hers. He had stumbled, he had panicked, he had feared every step of this journey, but the queen had trusted him, and that trust had allowed him to see himself in a way he never could have alone. The council's murmurs softened into quiet respect. Ryan felt a shift, not just in their perception, but in his own. He was no longer just an accidental visitor, a clumsy human, a fool who had tripped into a proposal. He was someone who could act with courage, someone who could matter, someone who could make a difference in a world so vast it could swallow him whole. Later, as the queen walked beside him through the glowing corridors, she spoke softly. "Ryan, today you showed them all what humans can be, but more importantly, you showed yourself. Courage does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes it acts when the world expects you to fail." Ryan looked at her, awe and gratitude flooding his heart. I don't know if I would have done it without you," he admitted. "You would have," she said gently. "I only helped you see it. Courage was always within you." For the first time, Ryan believed it. The fear, the doubt, the sense of being small in a vast galaxy, all of it began to fade. He had been accepted, not just by the queen, but by himself. And in that acceptance, he found something stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. He found hope. Hope that he could belong. Hope that humanity could matter. Hope that even in the most impossible circumstances, love and courage could change everything. Ryan stood beside the Queen on the balcony of the palace, overlooking the city of Xyrilia. The lights below shimmered like stars fallen to the ground, and the alien sky glowed with colors humans could barely name. For a moment he just breathed, feeling the cool breeze brush against his face and listening to the faint hum of the palace. It was peaceful now, almost unreal after the chaos, the invasion, and the council's judgment. He looked at the Queen, her figure radiant in the soft glow of the twin moons. She smiled at him, a smile that held warmth, pride, and something far deeper: trust. Ryan's heart thumped. He had stumbled into this life by accident, by sheer clumsiness, and yet here he was, standing beside someone who could bend galaxies with her will, and somehow, she had chosen him. "I still can't believe it," Ryan admitted quietly, almost to himself. I accidentally proposed to you, and you accepted me." The Queen chuckled softly, the sound carrying a gentle melody that made him shiver. "Yes," she said, "but sometimes accidents are not mistakes. Sometimes they are beginnings. You did not plan to speak those words, yet when you did, it changed everything, not just for you, but for all of us." Ryan looked down at his hands. He had thought he was small, fragile, unworthy. But standing here, he realized how wrong he had been. It wasn't his size, his species, or his experience that mattered. It was his heart, his courage, his willingness to act, even when he didn't know the outcome. "You've grown so much," the Queen said, stepping closer. "From the human who stumbled into my chamber, you have become someone who can face fear, protect life, and inspire others. That is not small. That is extraordinary." Ryan swallowed hard. His voice caught. I don't know if I deserve you. I'm not perfect. I'm clumsy, unprepared, and human. I don't even know if I belong here." The Queen reached out, gently taking his hands in hers. Her touch was warm, grounding, and somehow full of power. "Deserving has nothing to do with it," she said softly. "Belonging does not come from perfection. It comes from choice. You chose courage. You chose to act. You chose to stand beside me. And that is enough." Tears pricked Ryan's eyes. He had spent his life feeling small, unnoticed, insignificant. But here, under the alien sky, with a Queen who believed in him, he felt larger than he ever had. He wasn't just a human. He was a part of something immense, something worth fighting for. "You changed my world," the Queen continued, her eyes shining. "And in return, I hope you see that your world, humanity, has strength too. Even the smallest voice, the simplest heart, can echo across galaxies." Ryan took a deep breath, letting the weight of her words sink in. He remembered the chaos of the invasion, the whispers of the council, the fear and the uncertainty. He remembered how weak and small he had felt, and yet, here he was, alive, standing, holding her hands, accepted, respected, and capable. I will stay with you," he said, voice steady now. "I will protect you, I will learn, I will fight, I will try. Even if I fail, I won't give up." The Queen smiled, a quiet, radiant smile. "That is all I ever ask," she said. "Not perfection, not skill, only courage, heart, and choice." Ryan felt a surge of hope. For the first time, he understood that life did not have to be planned to be meaningful. Accidents could lead to destiny, fear could lead to courage, and even a human, small and fragile, could leave a mark on a galaxy of stars. As he looked at her, the wind brushing past them, he realized the truth of it. Love, trust, and courage were not bound by species, strength, or history. They were bound by heart. And in that moment, Ryan knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. He squeezed her hands gently, his heart full. "Together," he said. "Together," she echoed. And beneath the alien sky, with stars reflected in her eyes, Ryan understood that life's greatest adventures often begin by accident, and that sometimes the universe itself chooses love and courage too.